As a data analyst, whenever you have a task to clean your data set, right, especially if it is a large data set, right, the appropriate tool to use is called the Power Query Editor. And that's why you see that if you are familiar with using your Microsoft Power BI, right, and you have just loaded your data into the Power BI, the first area it takes you to is the Power Query Editor, so that you can first of all clean that data. But the question is the Power Query Editor very unique to the Power BI? No, you can also access the Power Query Editor on your regular Microsoft, Excel tool. And because if you look at each of these tabs that we have on the Microsoft Excel, you will not see any options that represent Power Query Editor. And because of that, people usually think that it is not, you can't get Power Query Editor. There are ways to get it, and I'm going to show you, right? So we are going to do two things in this class. I'm going to lead us to accessing the Power Query Editor from your Microsoft Excel tool. That's at first. And secondly, we're going to access a data set and try to clean that data set with the Power Query Editor. So let's quickly jump onto that. To access your Power Query Editor, right, your Power Query Editor is under the data tab, right? So get to the data tab, and then on the data tab, of course, we have several groups. Locate the get and transform data group, right? And then this is the area, and what you do here is to get data. So click get data, and several options will pop out for you, right? It's asking you, where do you want to get data from? You can get data, you can get your data from your database, any database that your organization is using. You can extract data from an Azure, right? And then if you come to this one, you can also pick your data from any file like an Excel workbook, which is what we want to use here, right? You can also bring in import files from JSON, files, PDF files. You can also bring in PDF file, right? It's a PDF file, but it will extract the data out there for you that you can use. But then let's get into it without wasting our time. So I'm going to select the Excel workbook. And when I click it, it will take me into my system to say, okay, what is the data that you want to work with, right? So this is my system, and I want to use this data sample, to explain this process to us. So I select it and I say import, right? So you can see right now the Power Query Editor is loading, right? So now one of the things I want you to note is that whenever of course, we have picked the data from an Excel workbook, and we know that every Excel workbook has several sheets, right? We have sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. If I click this plus sign, you're going to access the other sheets that are available, right? Now, as soon as I selected my data, it brings me to this interface that is called the navigator, right? So the navigator is that asking me that, okay, here is your Excel workbook that you have selected. Which of the sheets, right, do you want to pick your data from? So if I have data in all the sheets, right, I'm just going to say it will list all the sheets down here, and I'm going to select as many sheets that I want to work with. But then for the data sample that I've selected, I have data in just one sheet, and I've renamed that sheet as data. Instead of saying sheet 1, it is now called data. So I'm just going to select it, and as soon as I select it, look at this interface here. I'm going to preview my data to confirm that, okay, this is the data that I actually intend to work with. Now that I have confirmed my data, right, we should understand that just the same way it is discussed in the Power BI class, to say that we say that the Power BI, the Power BI operates on a process called ETL, right? ETL stands for extract, transformed, and load, which means that the first thing you want to do, when you want to clean your data, the first thing to do is to extract data into the Power Query Editor. Now, after extracting data, the next thing compulsorily that you must do is that you must transform It is called ETL. Transforming a data is the same thing as saying that clean the data. Make sure the data is fit for analysis, right? So I'm going to, so which means that even though I have two options here, load and transform, it will be wrong for me to select load because I need to first of all transform the data. So I just click transform, and I'm going to watch the Power Query, the Power Query editor loaded appropriately. You can see it is loading, and now I am in the Power Query editor interface, right? And then right on this interface, the first thing I advise to have to do is to ensure that you have this list. This, look at it, this list under the headers, right? To make sure that it is listed. If you load yours and it is not listed, quickly come to the view tab, right? This is the view tab, and check this column quality under data preview group. Now that I'm unchecking it, you can see that that column, that row is off it. If I check again, that row is back, right? So this column quality helps you to have a first glance about your data, each of the columns in the data that you want to work with. For example, I have the name column and it's telling me that the name column is 100% valid, right? But if you come to this gender column, you can see that it is only 96% valid and 4% are empty. And knows that in analyzing the data, when you have an empty data, you cannot go ahead to analyze. So you must ensure that your data is 100% valid before you go ahead to analyze, right? So column quality has helped me to do that. And another thing that you must take as a priority to do is to study your data type, right? Each column has a data type, meaning that the kind of data that is expected to be in that column. Usually, name column should have their names, so you should have alphabet, right? So the data type should be character. Gender also should be character. But then columns like salary cannot hold character. It should hold numbers, right? Cannot hold text, so it should hold numbers. And even with number, you can decide if it is a whole number or a decimal number. And that's why I have this icon here, 1.2, to show that it is a number and it is a decimal number. At any point, if I need to change the data type, what I would do is to right click the column and check down. You will see data type here. Then you can now change the data type. If you want to put it into currency, you can do that. If you want to put it in whole number, you can do that. But then we are leaving it on decimal number, right? So I've just shown you how to change the data type. And of course, if you check the date also, which is the last thing, and you can see that it is on the start date is on date data type. So you can go ahead to the next phase. So we're already cleaning the data, right? Cleaning a data or transforming the data simply means that ensure that the data is made available. It is well prepared for analysis. If you have not cleaned your data appropriately and you go ahead to analyze, right, you will get results. But then the result is not fit to inspire your decision. So the decision that you will get from it will be misleading. Now, the next thing I will advise to do right here is to go ahead to clean this name column. And what is the error that I'm seeing here? And you can see that if we have got something in name, it should be the first name and the last name. For example, my name is Olamide Ezekiah, right? So I'm expected to have AB Leran here. What is 45 doing here? And the funny thing is that I have that same number 45 down the column, right? So which means that this is probably an error acquired, maybe when when imputing the data or when extracting the data from a particular database into the Excel. So to clean it, I'm going to do something similar to what we call text to column wizard on the Microsoft Excel, right? I'm going to split this column and let the number be at the side and the alphabet be at the side. And to do that, on that name column, I'm going to right click and I'm going to look for split column, right? You can see on the split column, it's already asking me, how do I want to split? This is by delimiter. Obviously, I'm not splitting by delimiter because I don't have comma, right? Or full stop or what have you in this space. So I am going to split by, you see another option here that says by non-digit to digit. And that looks like what I actually want to use, right? The alphabet Abilera is a non-digit and digit is the number 45 is a digit. So I'm going to select this, and you will see the magic that happened. You can see that it has splitted that name, and I have Abiliran and the number 45 down here, right? Now, what I want to do now is to now rename this because it was named before, but because I have splitted that name column into two, it has named it as name 1 and name 2. So to rename it, I'm just going to double click on this space and rewrite the name as name, right? And that is done, right? Now it is changed. And for this, right, which is in name 2, I don't need all the 45 at all. It's not useful, it's not relevant to my analysis. So I'm just going to delete it. And to delete it, I'll select the name column and right click again, and you can see remove straight away, and it is going to remove it. So I have claimed that, right? It is just loading, but it is cleaned already. Let's just wait for it to load so that it doesn't affect our other activity. All right, next thing that I need to do now is to check if there are empty cells, right? Now, if you look at the actual data, from the Excel, I'm going to try to look at that, right? This is the data from the Excel. You can see this is the data we are working with, right? And if you look at the salary column, you see that here there is an empty cell here. But then if you get back to the Power Query editor, there seems not to be empty cell. This is the salary column, and I'm seeing this. So what happened when you import an Excel file into the Power Query editor? At all time, every empty cell will be replaced by this null that we have here. But you must note that null will be written in small letter and will be in italic. Now, each time you see it this way, it means that the actual data from its source, right, is an empty cell, right? Is an empty cell. But then on the other hand, if you look at this department, the first cell we have here has null, another null, but this null is in capital letter N-U-L-L. Now this is not an empty cell. The meaning of this is that I'm going to take it back also. Our time is running and I don't want to keep, okay. If you look at the department, you will see that we have null well inputted A, which means that Abiliran, right, does not have a department in this case, right? So if I return back A, so you will see that this null is what we have originally in that data. So it's something we can assume that when Abiliran was employed, right, they have not really fixed him to be under a particular department. So we'll let this fly. But then for this cannot fly. Already you can see that the column quality is showing that valid cell is 96 and empty is 4%. So we need to claim that. And to claim that, it's simple. I am just going to look at this arrow here, like a filter arrow, the drop down, select it, and you will see remove empty cell. So if you do that, every empty cell in that column, it will remove it, right? And that has been cleaned. If you look at the column quality right now, after loading right now, you can see that it is now 100%. So I can go ahead to check for others, and now that I've confirmed that every other ones are 100, right, it means that my data is now clean. You can see how data cleaning can be made so easy when you are doing it in the environment of the Power Query editor, right? So this is the actual tools that Microsoft, as an organization, has designed for data cleaning. And so many analysts, so many people who uses Excel are not familiar that these features can be found on the Microsoft Excel tool. One of the reasons is because it is not directly listed in any of the tabs. But then I've just showed you how to access your Power Query editor. Before we go, if this has been so good for you to know, please, I want you to drop a like and subscribe to our channel so that we can extend this to other persons who would like to see it also. While we do that, I'm going to say good night. We'll meet in the next video.